I am more than familiar, based on many past experiences, of films that decide over time with their run, and leading up to the official release, we're going to adapt the title or change it in some way, right? So there are those modifications that come on that might perhaps be confusing. You might come across a trailer that is labeled distinctively different from the main title of what the film comes to be known as. But IMDb usually does a better job, that's the main site I consult for reference, on acknowledging those alternative titles. They didn't with this movie, and I had to go digging to find a trailer, because unbeknownst to me, there's a lot of snake movies, like sharks and other types of, animal-centered thrillers. There's a lot, actually. Especially among the lower budget space, I would also acknowledge on that point. So, you might be looking at this movie and know it by one of its free titles, at least 3 as I'm aware of, not counting the Chinese translation. This is a Chinese movie, I believe, on its basis. There's either Snake Jungle, that's how the trailer is acknowledged, or on the IMDb page, it's titled The Python, or if you want to watch this off the Tubi app and website, it is titled The Serpent King. So all over the place, this film is identified differently, but I believe this is the same movie. I'm hoping so, because I went to an extensive amount of work to try and dig this up. And it's hard when you're not familiarized best, or your second language, at least you studied in school, is Chinese. I studied Spanish, so it does prove to be a bit of a complication that translators in this case really didn't help out with. Anywho, it's a snake movie. I haven't watched too many of these. Again, I've covered plenty of stuff within the shark arena and other types of animal thriller horror fare, so snakes are a bit of a new introduction, and consulting the Tubi page, there's actually quite an extensive list already of snake movies that are growing. So snakes and pythons might be coming in the future, and they might be an ever horror trend that's building. I don't know. That's been the case for the last couple of years of other types of, even irrespective of animals, other horror subjects. So Python, I'm assuming, again, is the main subject of the movie, or at least he's kind of titled that way as a character. Or maybe that's what they call him. Maybe there's some sort of, I don't know. I think with certain aspects of Chinese culture and tradition, and what I know from some of their artistic styles as well, which I'm sure, this will be a beautiful movie on that level. Although, I don't know for certain. This is an ITN Movies production, and I've been mixed with their work in the past. Some projects have looked good. Others are... I try to be respectful when it comes to lower budget fare, but in some cases when you look at their work, it's like really low budget. Like, they really don't have that many resources in comparison to perhaps other indie filmmakers where it presents a more competent picture. Some of their movies have not been, at least in my opinion, the most efficient in delivery. But that's just, that's a subjective thing. But I do try and be nice as I can to lower budget fare, because I do believe it's important to acknowledge, developing talents. I try to make a place for that on this channel as best I can. Let's go ahead, though, and take a look at Snake Jungle. It is a Chinese movie, as I was saying, and I have liked some of the film fare from China. Shadow being a film I always acknowledge. Such a good movie if you've never seen it. You have to watch it on Blu-ray. That is the ideal way to watch the movie, especially with its killer action sequences and beautiful scenery. It is such a scenic film. Let's go ahead, though, and take a look at Snake Jungle. Maybe this will be equally as good. I don't know. Again, ITN is a bit mixed on delivery, but some of what I've covered in the past and looked at, especially from the international releases, they presented a bit more of a competent picture. But let's take a look at this and see. The animals look good. Oh, even the snake looks pretty good too, in my opinion. It doesn't look overly digital, or like it was put in post. Realistic animations. Good lighting. Really good scenic shots of the environment. That's very alluring to me. Good music choices. It's very Chinese. In some parts you can clearly tell the snake is a bit CGI, but it's better in comparison to some of the other stuff I've seen come out of ITN Movies or Distribution. They go by both names. Some good fight choreography, especially how it's considered in the filmmaking process, how it's staged. in my opinion, it's actually not that bad. I mean, it looks quite good. If you're familiar with other films, I mean, it is a bit lower budget, right? I acknowledge Shadow, and it's clearly got more resources to play with as a movie. Now, that's not focused around snakes. That's more a martial arts movie. Such a good film. Again, I can't acknowledge that one enough. But this has actually got a very competent presentation. I mean, again, it's not overly cheesy, and it feels like this movie has actually presented some money behind its production. And I appreciate that, because the delivery, I think, is exceptional. The lighting, specifically for these nature sequences and the forestry shots, very scenic, especially for a fantasy movie. It sort of gives it that illusion of dating it a bit. I mean, again, maybe it's... Well, I think it's probably supposed to be set back a bit. It doesn't look to me like it's going for a modern presentation based on some of the armor choices. I mean, I could be wrong at this point, but it looks like it's more of like an ancient fantasy-esque type film. And I think it delivers. I mean, even the snake, some might say, and I do agree, that it appears a bit glossy, which you can clearly see then that it was put in post through a computer. But the way that the scenes are shot and how the snake is interacting with the physical environment and how the camera is intentionally placed in certain directions to accommodate that, it prevents a deceiving picture that I think paints the snake as an authentic being, or at the very least we can humor the possibility of that whilst we still consider, this python isn't real. And I'd say it's also got a good proportion to the other actors as well. Like, it doesn't feel like an outlandish fantasy construction at all, in my opinion. I'm actually really impressed by this. Like I was saying, maybe a hard-to-find movie. You wouldn't be blamed if you weren't able to find it. You got confused along the way with, where exactly is the python? Well, it's the Serpent King on Tubi, or it's the Snake Jungle on YouTube. That's the official trailer designation. So, if you were looking to watch this, you now have that mix of titles to judge with. I've tried to accord them best that I can to their specific services. I think, in terms of a fantasy action movie, with the Chinese background, that does entice me. And with the python, it actually looks like a pretty realistic construction. I'm quite impressed by it, in my opinion. But, I'd be curious to perhaps see if there's anybody that feels a different way than I do. I mean, it could be a varied response. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Maybe some of you agree with me. Maybe some of you have seen this movie, and you had maybe easier time finding it. Perhaps if I mentioned, like, in the comments or something, or in a post that I was covering this, you could have helped. I wouldn't have to spend so much time trying to go and dig it up, but whatever your response is to this movie, I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're so inclined to disclose them down below. It looks good. I think, again, in comparison to some other stuff that I've covered from ITN movies / distribution, it's better than what I typically see from them. So I have a better image of this movie going forward than I would otherwise surmise on that premised attribution. But I like it. I might actually watch it. Again, like I said, it's an accessible release. You can watch it for free. And it seems like a fun time. I mean, we'll see how best this builds out in the future. Like I was saying, I'm seeing a budding trend in thriller, action, horror, you could say, in this department with other snake movies. Tubi's apparently got quite the list. Nowhere near to Sharks. But it could build itself into that. These days, Hollywood is all about trends. So anyway, looks like a competent picture. I'm impressed by it. We'll see if the film delivers. Maybe I'll have a chance to review it at some point on this channel. I'd be open to doing that if I so want to, and if the film, in my opinion, is worth the discussion. But I think it's impressive. At least from what I can see on the trailer, I'm invited in. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.